Today on the Pro Life Podcast, we're talking Super Bowl shenanigans and designer babies. Sentences I never thought I would say together. We need to talk about this. Let's get started. Happy Thursday, Pro Life family. Welcome to the table. Pull up a chair, grab your coffee. You brought your coffee today.
It's real coffee today.
Wow. Not mushroom coffee. It's the real coffee. Hey. They made me a list so I'd stay on topic because, man, the list of things to talk about was long. So we had to slim it down, and there was a heated debate about what should and shouldn't be included today.
But we're here now.
And we have a list. I have a list, and I'm going to try and stick to it. Some of these things they belong on a list of sentences I never thought I'd have to say, and I should keep like a board back here somewhere of like things Brent never thought he'd have to say. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's a list as a parent. You think like,
oh yeah, don't put that in your mouth. Yeah, but this is about pro-life weird stuff that we never thought we would say.
Yes, but friends, if you'll introduce yourselves for the audio listeners so they can have that voice-face mismatch.
Yeah, Kim Schwartz, Director of Media and Communication.
Hi, Veronica Smither. I go here. I used to work in the education department here, and now I just talk on the podcast.
Yeah. Love it.
And raise children.
I do. Mm-hmm. 4 of them.
Smart,
little monsters.
Smart children. Brent Kligerman, IT Director and list follower today.
All right.
Okay. So there was a Super Bowl ad.
What?
We're going to tie all this stuff together. There were a lot of Super Bowls. In case you were under a rock and didn't know that there was a Super Bowl last Sunday. I didn't watch it. I don't care. But it's an excuse to sit and eat queso. So, yeah. I mean, there's that. I'll take advantage of that any chance I get. But there were a lot of ads, but one in particular has made a lot of noise. There's been a lot of chat about, this is by He Gets Us. Was that the org?
Yeah.
That's right? Okay.
Yeah.
It's all AI generated imagery, it seems, which is brave for a ad about washing feet as Jesus would serve his friends. And taught his friends to care for each other. But there's one image in particular that has had a lot of, at least in our world, there's a lot of images in there that would create buzz.
Yeah.
One in particular is a woman washing another woman's feet outside of a family planning clinic.
Yeah. And in the corner, did you see the people in the corner of the picture?
Yeah, there's the protesters off in the corner.
There's 3 or 4 people in the corner of the photo off in the distance holding signs down at their sides, so the signs are upside down. But they say things like end row and
save the unborn.
Save the unborn. So they're clearly pro-life signs. So it's fascinating. Okay, I have to preface with I loved the ad. And Brent is extremely grumpy today, so it's going to make for good conversation. And he does not like this ad.
I have strong thoughts about it. I don't know if I like or dislike it.
Well,
okay.
But I have
he's grumpy enough that you'll think he hates it. I love it. I think the
I'm the pro-life angry dad.
Yeah,
that's
fine.
I will accept my role.
See, I can be way too optimistic sometimes, so but I love to play devil's advocate. So it's really about that. It's about seeing both sides. And the ad itself, I think, is beautiful. It shows a series of images of people who could be clearly on opposite sides of an opinion spectrum regarding politics or some movement or race or religion,
opposing sides of protests.
Opposing sides of all kinds of different things. And so it shows a member of one of those parties washing the feet of another member of those parties. And it's beautiful. And then at the end of the ad, it says, Jesus didn't teach hate, he washed feet. And then it shows the link to the org He Gets Us. So the art by itself is fascinating and I think very meaningful. The problem that so many people have with it is that it is completely unsaid whether or not the sin is being condemned.
Right.
And so it's what's unsaid that is frustrating.
Well, and that's the thing. It's a string of images. Its art is subjective, right? Every viewer is going to interpret their own meaning out of it. So if you are of a particular belief system, you're going to interpret something out of that favors your worldview.
Right.
You know, so by not having an objective like this opinion, now, if we could interpret this as serving women outside of those clinics, hey, let's serve them outside of those clinics so they don't go in there.
Right. Mm-hmm. And that's, of course, what a pro-life pregnancy center worker would say. Oh, we are doing that. We are washing the feet of these young girls and trying to show them extreme compassion so that they will realize they don't need an abortion. But a pro-choice advocate would immediately say, you need to wash their feet and teach them that they're not judged and that Christ will love them no matter what they do, including even if they abort their child. And so that is terrifying. This ad is not offering any sort of education or anything like that. It's just to spark conversation. And so, like you said, if they don't, I know, we conversated a lot about it. Now we're going to do it some more.
Whether or not to talk about this today.
So here we are talking about it.
Okay.
The art though is wonderful. And
I will say for AI art, you got hands and feet pretty right. Like they don't.
Of course you were going to say that.
They don't have like 7 fingers.
Right.
So like,
AI's gotten too good.
You went. That's brave.
Right.
To even attempt that. But yeah, the art is well done. There's some of it that I would have even questioned as somebody who spends a lot of time going over what AI is doing, even questioned whether or not it was AI.
Yeah, the couple of the strings of photos, like there was one of 2 men, a black man and a white man, washing their feet together in a tub. Mm-hmm. It looked like a real photo. It might actually be, I need to fact check it, but it was beautiful. And the point of that whole picture, of course, is that race shouldn't divide us, and that was beautiful. But the pro-life image in particular, I would love to get the opinion of some people who work at a pregnancy center to see what they think. Because, of course, their entire mission is to prevent women from going in there to get an abortion. So I think they would also be kind of split on whether or not they like the ad.
Well, see, here's the thing. You, in framing it, called it a pro-life image.
Oh, excuse me. Oops.
Well, the image
I'm in favor.
You see it as pro-life.
The image.
And so there's a lot of people who...
my bias is showing.
Well, so there's a lot of people who are saying, like, they've condoned going to the clinic. And people who are typically on our side of the fence are saying that. And they're like, hey, there needs to be a little more, like, if you're coming from a Christian perspective, it needs to be a little more like, hey, let's talk about the sin going on here.
Exactly.
Which...
I mean, we have to do both. We have to do both.
Both are necessary.
Yeah, we have to show compassion and we have to condemn the sin.
Mm-hmm.
But you've got to show that compassion first, because if you're just condemning the sin, no one's going
to listen. Right. It's like, feed the hungry instead of telling them, stop sinning.
Right.
Like, if we're going to talk about the good here, whether they got everything right or not, let's talk about what they got right. Serving women in a crisis pregnancy situation is our role in the church, and 100% necessary. If that's what we're interpreting is going on in this image.
It's all about your perspective. Like you said, with art, it's relative. But then we also have to talk about the org who created the art in the first place. And it, like you said, it's just an advocacy group to get people to go to church. It's not a specific church. So they have a section on their website about like what's their stance on this and what's your mission and why are you doing this? Are you trying to get people to go to church and all that? So
they don't look like they have a whole lot of stance on a lot of things.
Right. It is very neutral on a lot of things, which can be very confusing for someone who thinks that, I can just keep doing whatever I'm doing and still go to church. And
like Jesus is whoever I want him to be, kind of thing.
Yeah, that's dangerous.
Yeah, we literally talked about this Sunday in church about like when we start trying to interpret a version of God that's okay with the things that we've done. So see, it's cool. We're all cool.
Creating your own God instead of actually following his commands.
Yeah.
And I think the faith leaders who are upset about this are concerned that that's the direction we're leading people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I totally understand and respect that. I see that version of it. Again, it's art, right? It's up to interpretation. And so I think the only thing we can really do here is pray for how it's received, that God can do something in the viewer's heart and how they receive it in the way that we hope it's intended.
Yeah. Well,
like I don't know how it's intended.
What I'm hoping, my specific prayer, because you always got to be specific in prayer, is that the people who watch this, if they were ever on the fence about going to church in the first place, and this ad is helping them get into a church, then that church, hopefully the church that they select, would be doing a fantastic job washing the feet of those newcomers, welcoming them and showing them extreme compassion, and then educating them from the pulpit on this is how you clean up your life. Now you're here. Right. Now you're ready to pick up your cross and actually follow God. Follow Christ. That's what he said. He said, follow me. Do the hard thing. He didn't just say, like, let's hang out and wash each other's feet. He was like, all right, now pick up your cross.
Yeah.
Like, that's hard work.
Yeah. If we take this in the context of, say, the woman at the well, Jesus respected her, cared for her, and then invited her into the faith.
Yeah.
Right? He invited her to, hey, if you knew who you were talking to.
He named her sins
in
the most
and called
loving
her
way. He said, you've had 7 husbands. Wait, I said the wrong number. I think 4. Either way, a lot.
You've had several, and the guy you're living with isn't your husband. Yeah. And just like, oh, he knows everything. Yeah. But he didn't get away from me. Like, he invited her into the community. Yeah. Which was something that, as a Samaritan, that's not her experience, right? So, he didn't say, I'm okay with what you did.
Right. He's like, I know what you did.
I know what you did.
Time to clean up.
All of those situations, it's always, okay, now stop. And join this community.
Yeah.
And certainly emphasizing like the freedom from our sins there. Like, I hope that's what what people will draw from this ad is that no matter what sins you have committed, that they can be forgiven. They don't have to stay with you. So hopefully people will see that and realize like, okay, I do need to surrender this to the Lord. Not that like, yeah, my sin is totally fine. I'm just going to keep going how I am. Like, this is great.
I really hope that that's not the takeaway for anybody, but.
Right. Hey.
Well, and I know sin is such a loaded word today in our culture that people can be very offended, even just hearing the word sin, because it means that they think we're judging them. And I feel like a robot saying over and over again, like we're judging the sin, not the sinner. We don't know what's going to happen at the end of time and how Christ is going to judge the person. That is not our job. But what we do know is he gave us a pretty good rule book what to do and what not to do. And so we can judge the sin and say, don't do that, please. Don't do that anymore. And come into our church.
There you go.
I think we beat this horse.
Okay, yes.
Beautiful ad. Go watch it.
But on the Super Bowl. Okay, so more on the Super Bowl now.
Oh, yeah. Taylor Swift won the Super Bowl. Wait, never mind. What were we going to talk about? I'm wearing red.
Some churches doing some good stuff.
Yes,
some churches doing some good stuff. Completely unrelated from Taylor Swift. So a couple bishops had a bet. One in San Francisco and one in Kansas City, I believe, right?
Yep.
And it was, if my team loses, I'll donate to your community. And
your local pregnancy center.
And that's what it came. There have been historically other bets between
like mayors,
church leadership, and mayors.
Yeah,
and we see this like a lot. My city bets your city, whatever, and we'll send a thing and we'll donate to a charity. But these two church leaders are donating to pregnancy centers. So
cute.
The Super Bowl win was a win for pregnancy centers in Kansas City.
Love it.
Yeah.
So, but I think this is a good opportunity. We were discussing this, and I agree. You brought this up, that like, hey, other people could do this. I agree that it's a good opportunity. That, hey, if we're going to be really salty about, like, my team's going to win and your team stinks and whatever, like, okay, well, then let's dare each other that we're going to support a charity, support a pregnancy center.
Yeah.
Yeah. Make use of your team spirit.
Right.
Definitely.
Right.
And like the A&M and UT clubs are doing this, the pro-life groups, because they've had this long rivalry. And so...
well, for the non-Texas
True.
people, like the whole Texas A&M, University of Texas thing, it goes back a very long time. It's very heated. Of all of the college team rivalries, this is a really big one.
Yeah.
And
like
goes
over
back
100 years.
Yeah. So, there have been civil wars fought that took less time to get over this. Like, this is a long-running thing, all right?
Oh, my gosh.
So, but these two colleges, they work together.
The pro-life groups at the colleges, to be clear. Yeah, so the pro-life clubs at the colleges, because we have students in our scholarship program at each university that they organize fundraising campaigns, right, for their scholarships to help pregnant and parenting students at their campuses. And so that's how they like still compete against each other, even though for a while A&M and UT were not competing in sports.
They were, and then they weren't, and then they
now they are again.
They're coming back next year. UT and A&M will actually play each other again, but for the past several years they haven't. So the students had a ad campaign, or I should say a fundraiser campaign. It's called Bring Back the Rivalry, and the winning team raised the most money for their local pregnant and parenting student scholarship.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Good job.
Good way to
I love it.
insert pro-life stuff into like cultural happenings, because people are already paying attention to this stuff.
So next time you want to make a bet with like Astros versus Rangers or something,
I mean, you might as well, right? Like, I'm in favor of that. Like, if we're gonna make a bet, let's make a bet that you're gonna support something good, not throw money at stupid things. Don't do that. But enough on that. Okay, moving on. This is going on the list of sentences I never thought I'd have to say. So you're gonna hear what that is after the break.
Great news. Texas Right to Life is celebrating our 50th birthday this year. This is half a century of victories that the Lord has given us. But God is not done yet. The battle for life is only increasing as the abortion industry is going underground to promote death and sell abortion. Join us in supporting Texas Right to Life's 50th birthday campaign and chip in with a gift today. Thank you for 50 years of saving lives. And friend, the best is yet to come.
Get your tickets today for the Convention for Life. This is like my favorite convention all year. June 22nd in Houston at Grace Church in the Woodlands. We're going to level up that pro-life knowledge, and you are going to be a pro-life expert. We're going to hear from an amazing lineup of speakers to help you defend your beliefs, including author Danielle D'Souza Gill. If that D'Souza name sounds a little familiar, Dinesh's daughter. It's going to be an amazing time. We are going to celebrate the anniversary of the overturn of Roe v. Wade, and we're going to look forward and talk about some of the issues facing our movement. Get your tickets at conventionforlife.com. All the details and links below, conventionforlife.com. We'll see you in June. Welcome back, friends. And now for the sentence I thought I'd never have to say, designer deaf baby.
Oh, cringe.
So a lesbian couple has decided that they both are deaf, and they would like to have a also deaf child, and have sought out a sperm donor who was deaf so they could have very high probability of having a deaf child.
And they succeeded with two children. So they actually have two children. One I think is about 5, one's around 10. I need to fact check that. But they use the same sperm donor to create 2 children with a high probability of being born deaf, and they were. And it just, oh my goodness, I was fascinated reading this article. And the reason it came up is because Candace Owens talked about it recently, and it happened a long time ago. Mm-hmm. She brought it up, and I'm fascinated because I love bioethics. And we all know about the more, I guess, the larger community of people who want to design super healthy, or you could even say superhuman babies. Like that's way more common. And there's a lot of historical evidence and a lot of movies and subculture on the topic of creating the perfect humans. But there's a fairly strong minority movement of people who want to create children through IVF or other means now, because there's other means of me creating people. Mm-hmm. They want to create people with disabilities. And I think it is fascinating. and alarming, to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
And
I'm concerned with the commodifying a child.
that
right?
we already discussed
we
that.
We discussed that at
buying
nauseam.
a kid, essentially. That's issue number one. But we've talked about that so many times on this podcast. So I guess now it's really about, is it okay or is it not okay to create a human with a disability purposefully?
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I would think that someone who has a disability or wants to do this in the first place, they want to have a child with a disability, their main talking point is, I want someone like me, and how dare you're secretly discriminating, like your colors are showing you're discriminating against me for saying maybe it's not a good idea. And my comeback would be, no, I think that we embrace everyone with a disability, right? We should not discriminate in the slightest. And if someone was born naturally this way, like this is how, like, Christ can redeem all things. Like, he can make a life absolutely amazing for someone with deafness or someone with no arms and legs. I mean, you name it. Like, we've talked about supporting people with disabilities a lot on this podcast too. Mm-hmm. And just the pro-life movement in general is really good about that.
Yeah.
But creating someone purposefully like that, I feel like that's like a Pandora's box question.
Yeah.
And that's so interesting. And I don't know that there's a very black and white way to talk about it. Mm-hmm. Because I also see where they're coming from. But I know deep down, like, that's not what God would have intended. And that we should not play God. We should not play God on this. But I could talk a lot on this. So any thoughts real quick before I just keep going?
Yeah.
Well, it's like we talked with Dr. Sego was in recently, and we've got I'm not sure our timing and when this episode drops in relation to that one, but he was talking about there is a design, mm-hmm. and the further we get away from that design, the weirder territory we start getting into. Mm-hmm. And as much as some people would like to say the nuclear family is a thing of the past and not necessary, and culture has moved on and whatever. Well, if culture may have moved on, but it's only moved on to weird places when it's done that, right? Yeah. Like I feel like I keep saying this is my new catchphrase: the future is stupid.
Yeah.
Like guys, I want shoes that tie themselves in a hoverboard in a fine car. Like, and then what did I get? I got all kinds of weird things we talk about on the show.
Right. I think the heart of this story and this approach by these women was like, okay, well, we want to create a child with a certain characteristic. We want to know that they're going to have this certain characteristic. Right. And that's really, you find that a lot in IVF. And the reason why you search for that is like because you believe that your value comes from this characteristic, or that others' value comes from this characteristic. And, we were mentioning just how so much of our culture sees their identity in certain characteristics about their personality or their attraction or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. There's so many things. You can make an idol into anything. You can make your identity anything. Yep. And nothing will fulfill you. Nothing is your true identity besides your identity in Christ.
Right.
So I think that this problem here, like whether you're creating a child for this characteristic of having a disability or aborting a child or trying to create a child to, have these other characteristics that are not related to that, it's because you're trying to tie some sort of value to those characteristics, but the child's value is inherent and given to them by God. So that's the real problem I see here with this.
Yeah. Also, you said it really well. I'll say it less well. One of the ways I think of it is...
That's what we bring in.
I've been saving all 3 of my brain cells for this whole episode, so we got them.
Well, I like to think of it as tribalism, too.
Yeah.
A sense of wanting to belong. And you said it best because it all is about Christ. Mm-hmm. But I guess one way that our culture today might understand it if they're not even, aware of this about needing a relationship with Christ is a sense of tribalism. And right now it's funny because there's so many movements to break down walls and barriers and borders and you name it. And so that we can all be together. And yet at the same time, a lot of these people are talking about like, well, but my culture does this and you can't do it because you're stealing our culture and all this stuff. So I think this couple that wants to have children with deafness so they can share in their community of deafness, it's a sense of tribalism. It's wanting to belong to a specific culture and a tribe. And that is a good desire, but it's misguided, but also adding a sense of fallenness to this person. Like the fact that we have deafness in the world and disease and all of this, it's because it's a fallen world, and Christ wants to redeem this fallen world. He doesn't want us to revel in it.
Yeah.
And that, I think, is a very dangerous thing that someone could easily take this clip and miscommunicate everything I'm saying and say, like, deafness is bad. It's actually...
Or that, like,
I have
deaf
a brother,
people are
yeah, like,
bad.
I have several family members who are deaf, actually. So, it's like, I love these people to death. So it's not about the people who are deaf. It's about that it's a little bit like creating a disease and giving it to someone so that you can share that disease together and bond over it. That might be a better analogy so someone can understand, like, this is actually a problem. Creating a disease, like, if let's say I had cancer and I really wanted to have a child with cancer so we could bond over cancer together.
Right.
Like, that's a problem. That's a much clearer
That's
problem.
so dark.
Yeah.
It is very dark, but also I mean, this is the kind of stuff, the Black Mirror stuff that we're used to talking about these days.
Yeah.
Like, this is real life. People are doing weirder and weirder things out of tribalism and the need for longing, the need for community, the need to be part of a larger group.
Yeah.
And to be a member of that group, that's all that humans want, right? We want to be cool in the group. But what they're completely missing is the group is Jesus.
Yes.
Like, we're looking for him in all the wrong places.
All the time.
So, anyway.
Yeah,
I love
creating a child to help fit in with your identity, ideology is that's
Yeah.
Also,
that's weird.
we could imagine, I think one thing is to help, also, we could imagine the different scenarios that could have played out. What if during their IVF journey, none of the children were actually deaf?
That was going to be one of my questions.
Child.
Yes.
Well, that could have been very disappointing for this couple. And what if this child grew up thinking, my parents wanted a deaf child and I'm not deaf?
Well,
and that
it's in the media, so they're going to grow up and one day they're going to go, my parents intentionally wanted me to be deaf. But you were saying, like, they wanted a deaf child and they didn't get one?
Just like when someone says, oh, I really wanted a boy, but I got a girl. Or I really wanted a girl and I got a boy. Or I really wanted a star athlete and turned out to get a philosophy nerd. Like, there are so many. It's all about, like, I want this and it didn't happen. Right. And so the child created in the process lives with this burden. And that is really traumatizing.
Yeah.
Your children don't fulfill your identity issues.
Right.
Like, that's not why you have children.
Yep.
Yeah. And like, these children are individual, autonomous creatures created by God, and yet someone else is saying, well, you're not the way that I wanted you to be.
Right.
Or you're so perfect, you're exactly the way I created you. That's a whole other kind of pressure for a child. Like, oh, you're deaf.
They're children,
I
not
created
robots.
you this
Like,
way.
what the heck?
Yeah, I know. It's weird and dark.
And what are they going to do in 20 years when that kid's like, hey, Neuralink, sign me up. And then it's like, I'm going to stream Spotify to my brain and you can't stop me. Like,
things we never thought we would say.
Right?
That's going on the board.
Right? Oh, we took the guy who invented the worst car company and let him put computers in our brains.
Oh my gosh, Brent. Oh my gosh. But no, I do think a lot about, like, the pressure put on these children who are created through IVF. And of course, some of them may not feel this pressure. I don't want to, like, paint broad strokes and say they're all feeling this way. But I would imagine that some of them are thinking, like, yeah, I was created to be this way and I'm not. Or my parents think I'm perfect because they created me, but I don't feel perfect. And they're missing their true identity in Christ.
We really want to emphasize, like, again, obviously our own personal worth as, people who are parents, knowing their true identity and then passing that on to their children. But also just knowing that this process does contain a lot of flaws. Like IVF, we don't talk about it in this article, but it requires parents often to abort the many children who are all created, but maybe not all implanted. And so there's that problem. There's this mindset of like children are a commodity. And so, and that can take shape in any way. Like you can view anything as a commodity. You can view anything as an idol.
If you can buy it.
Yeah. So like those are some of the real dangers of this mentality in this article that we're analyzing here.
Yeah. It's turning children into a commodity you're entitled to. Like I'm entitled to my own deaf child because I want a deaf child. But
right.
Look, if I want a labradoodle, I'll go get a labradoodle, but these are children.
Yeah. Right. Now, I mean, I feel like it's essential to say that if someone is born with a disability like deafness, then they're a wonderful, valuable human being. And like we would love and help them and aid them to overcome the difficulties that they're going to face.
Yes.
Like helping them with speech therapy, getting hearing aids, perhaps different kind of work in school, so they're still be able to learn the exact topics, but they might not be able to literally hear the professor, so they might have the iPad, whereas no one else in the class has an iPad. Things like that. There are special accommodations. Well, I know, but maybe if you go to a liberal arts college, they will. I don't know.
If this were 10 years ago, 15 years ago.
There are really, really good accommodations for people who struggle with deafness.
Yeah.
So I think it goes without saying, like, these people are valuable and precious and amazing, just like anyone with a disability. And then I've also heard several people with disabilities say that I am happy and you don't need to worry about me, but I also wouldn't wish this on someone else. Like I wouldn't want, like, a paraplegic living after a car accident would say, like, yes, I have overcome and I'm happy and I have joy and I know I've overcome these obstacles and I can get around in my wheelchair just fine and I have this amazing house with all these different accommodations, all this stuff. But I wouldn't wish this on someone else because it's difficult and it's challenging and it was so interesting that there are other little, like, weird subcultures of people who identify as blind, but they aren't. And so they'll go to a doctor and request to be blinded. This is real. Google it. It's so strange. And other people who identify as an amputee, and so they've requested to have an amputation. And so I think it's that sense of tribalism that has made it even more easy to justify creating a designer baby that has a disability. It's very strange.
Yeah, the issue
Brent's making faces.
The issue is not children having disabilities. The issue is using children to affirm your identity box.
Wow, you said it really well.
There you go.
Mic drop.
We can have children. Yes.
Right.
Like we talked about that the other day.
Yes.
Make more babies.
Yes.
Have babies.
Goodness.
Right.
I'm still cringing over that. Yeah, go check out last
It was a funny ad. Funny ad.
It was a funny ad.
But yeah, having them specifically to affirm the identity box you want to check.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
anyway, there's probably going to be more stories like this. It's just one of those things that's just very hard to talk about in a black and white way. But keep looking. Stay tuned. There's going to be more strange things like this happening, and we have to be able to talk about them to your friends and neighbors and. Just make them stop and question it before they move
don't
forward
worry
with it.
Yeah.
It's complicated, man. Anyway, what else we got?
It is Lent. The Lenten season is upon us. Ash Wednesday is yesterday. So 40 Days for Life has started. If you don't know what 40 Days for Life is...
Oh, I was about to take a sip of coffee. Let's see. Well, okay, so it's a wonderful pro-life campaign encouraging people to pray and stand outside of abortion clinics. And in Texas, they're still asking, where it's illegal to have abortion in the way that you used to be able to, they're still asking people to pray outside of these health clinics to raise awareness of, the referrals that happen out of place. I know I can't.
Health
Health
clinic.
Camden. I just combined your names. Camden Brent equals Kent. You have a celebrity couple
That's
name.
my brother.
Oh,
That's my brother.
No.
Anyway, moving back on track. So these clinics, Kim did ask quotation marks over health clinics. They're really just making referrals out of state to go get abortions out of state, or prescribing the abortion pill or things like that. So standing
can't do that.
outside of them,
They can't prescribe abortion pills.
In Texas.
Although
well,
they also
illegally, it's still happening illegally.
Yeah, right.
So,
also
It's like a
can't
week.
traffic people out of state to get
Yeah.
abortions either.
but just being a peaceful, prayerful presence outside of these facilities is so impactful because you could offer them brochures if you're able. You could get some training on one-liners to catch their attention, and usually at some of the larger facilities, there's a bus outside, a pro-life bus with a lot of resources on site, and it's a really amazing campaign. It's helped convert so many people and help them rethink getting an abortion and serving this community. And so the reason they do 40 days, it's called 40 Days for Life, is it ties in with Lent, which is 40 days long when, Christ spent 40 days in the desert. But really these campaigns go along all year round. And so sign up, go to 40daysforlife.com. We've worked with them so many times. They're amazing. They're completely changing. They have completely changed the culture of how to prevent in person someone going to get an abortion. They're really, really wonderful people serving these women. So yeah, go sign up. It's good stuff.
Cool.
Well, friends, I think that's about all the time we've got today. I mean, we're trying to cram a lot in this span of time. There's a lot to take home. You got a art ad that, what do you think about it? Go watch it. Links below. Throw in a comment. Like, what do you think? Good, bad? And let's pray for those that watch it that it be received in a pro-life way. 40 days. Links below. Sign up. Pray. Cool. Like, subscribe, share, have conversations with your friends and loved ones. You've got a lot of things to have conversations with your friends and loved ones today. Oh, maybe drink less coffee than I did before you discuss them. And we will see you next time. Thanks for watching.
Peace.